Why vote for reform? Nigel Farage's big claim is that illegal immigration is Britain's big problem. But my problem with Nigel Farage is that the moment he opens his mouth on this subject, he literally talks nonsense. As a matter of fact, in international law, which the UK has signed up to, illegal immigration into this country does not exist. Anyone can arrive in the UK without a passport or any papers of any sort whatsoever and legally claim asylum. That is their absolute legal right in international law. And if Farage says otherwise, he's not telling you the truth. People have the right to seek refuge from the country where they normally live, where they are at risk of being persecuted. That's why we grant people asylum. We don't do it out of the goodness of our hearts. We do it because we care about the fact that people are at risk. And so this talk of illegal immigration is wrong because until somebody has had their migration status settled by a tribunal, by an appeal process, by a process, quite literally, then they are here waiting for a decision to be made. Now, let's also be clear, we have the right to say no to people, and I'm not saying we shouldn't say no in some cases. There are people who will clearly try it on and come into the UK when there is no justification for them to do so. But to claim that this is a massive problem is crazy. Around 50,000 people a year claim asylum from small boats, and that's just about the only way they can now do it. There isn't a way of doing it by coming on a large boat, on a ferry. There isn't a way of doing it by coming in by plane. And so that's the only option that somebody who wants to claim asylum in the UK has, which in itself indicates that we do not comply with international law. But Farage claims that this tiny proportion of people coming into the UK, maybe 5% out of the total number of migrants into the UK some years are the problem. But remember, out of that 5%, 70% have their right to asylum agreed. So we're only talking about 15,000 people a year who arrive here who are then told, no, you have no right to stay. And we have arrangements to move those people out of the UK, and we do so by and large. The point then is that these people are not the cause of the problems in the UK economy. Nigel Farage claims that migrants are driving down wages, but that is nonsense. Minimum wages in the UK are higher now than they have ever been because of a move to introduce minimum pay legislation by a Labour government in 1997, which has been increased ever since. Migration is not therefore undermining pay, although weak trade unions are, and that's the deliberate consequence of UK government policy. Nor are migrants causing the housing crisis in the UK. In fact, the exact opposite is true because many of our houses were built by migrants. More people have come into this country to be builders than probably anything else. The problems with housing in the UK stem from the era of Margaret Thatcher. She told councils to sell their houses and not build replacements. We have ever since seen poor regulation of private landlords and bad housing and excessive prices, and those are the reasons for the housing crisis in the UK and not migrants. And poor public services are not created by migrants. In fact, 1 in 3 doctors in the UK is a migrant. 1 in 4 nurses in the UK is a migrant. And there are migrants working in councils and working in schools where we need strong public services and would not have them but for these people. Migrants deliver our public services. They don't undermine them. Migrants are, in fact, making Britain work. They do the jobs that people in the UK don't want to do. They are the cleaners, the janitors, the security guards, the care workers, the people who literally care for the dying. They provide many of the people who work on our transport system because of the anti-social hours that other people don't want. Migrants are more likely to work than people born in the UK. The fact is, they not only work, they contribute through taxes, and they contribute more than they take. So in that case, for reform to scapegoat migrants is wrong. Migrants contribute, they do not claim. So migrants are here to fill the gaps in our shrinking workforce, and to demonise them hides the truth and fuels division and spreads hate. Reform is offering no solutions. It's just offering scapegoats. Reform in that case is the problem and not the solution. Their politics is about division and not repair. Farage wants anger and not answers. Voting reform would make Britain poorer, weaker, and more divided. So let's stop saying migrants are our problem. They're not. They're the solution in very many cases to our problem. And the people who are here are welcome. Reform is a recipe for hate and decline when we need solidarity, investment, and real reform. Think about it. Please don't vote for division. Please don't vote to make this country poorer. Please don't vote to throw your neighbour out. Reject Farage's lies. Think twice before ever supporting reform.